Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Myron.
Hey, folks, and contrary to what Meltzer is reporting, I have not asked for my release. I'm happy to be working here. He told me I was going to be working at Dave Meltzer's show, but nope, I'm here.
You're not going to be jumping ship to
no
one of the other alternatives?
No, I'm pretty good here. My contracts, I get paid well.
You're locked down for long term. I signed everybody to long-term contracts in the beginning, right?
Yes. And I can even use my own image if I leave. I have to be somebody else.
Yeah. Say, I contractually hooked everybody up and said long-term deals, nobody gets out, and if you leave, you don't own anything when you leave. Yes.
But besides that, how about wrestling?
Hey, before we start wrestling, I want to ask you, it's wrestling related, obviously, but I wanted to ask you, after the Elimination Chamber, man, you know, one of the things WWE does extremely well is these documentaries. Mm-hmm. And it's totally off topic, I'm fully aware, I do this sometimes, you know, the Mark Henry documentary was just off the charts good.
I have not seen it yet. I really want to. I've always been a Mark Henry fan, and also I love their documentaries, and I love that kind of stuff they produce because they do it so well. It's like Sports Illustrated quality stuff. So, yeah, I look forward to that. I can't wait to see that.
It's done really well. I mean, Mark Henry comes off as like a really great guy. I mean, you know, serious, competitive, you know, but I mean, just a really good guy. I mean, just things that I don't know if you know now, they're pretty much using him like as an ambassador role, like he's for all kinds of stuff. And just, they had some of that in there where he was going to like the Be a Star, you know, programs that he does. But the thing, there were a couple of specific things I wanted to talk to you about. And I know you hadn't caught it yet, but I was just, I mean, you gotta check it out if you haven't seen it. But two stories particularly that stuck out to me. One was the famous retirement speech where he keeps John Cena in the ring and he goes through this whole emotional retirement speech, and then of course attacks John Cena at the end. Spoiler alert. I mean, it's happened years ago. Yeah. But what was awesome about it was his take on it was easy to tap into the emotion of it, that he cried, super emotional. And the way he did that was he said he knew this was his retirement speech. Like, he wasn't going to get this moment again.
Totally.
So basically, from his heart, he poured into his retirement speech, even though he knew he was about to turn this into an angle and run with it. But that was his retirement speech. And I was like, that's method acting, dude.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's awesome. I like to hear that kind of stuff because that's where you get your real emotion. That's where you get your real response, is when it's, you know, the truth.
It's weird, but it's just, I really love it, and I thought it was awesome. Two, the second story that I've really got a kick out of was he's told this crazy story about when he was he was down in, you know, he was rehabbing from an injury. He's down in Hawaii. He's repackaging. All the stuff's going on in his life, and he just decides all these guys in the weightlifting world have called him out. He's going to come back, and he makes the decision to go back. He calls Vince and tells Vince he really wants to go back, and Vince kind of tells him, this is per Mark Henry, of course, I respect that, I understand that, but you just need to understand that there's no place in the WWE for the second strongest man in the world.
That's Vince. Vince is competitive, man.
Mark Henry was like, man, shit just got real.
Yeah.
It's like, if I lose, I don't have a job.
Yep.
No pressure, right?
No pressure at all.
Yeah. By the way, he goes out and he wins. He destroys the competition. I mean, it was an awesome. But if you haven't seen it, obviously it's on the network, so check it out.
I can't wait till I get a free moment. I'm going to watch it.
You should. It's something right up your alley. I think you'll get a kick out of it because I know
I could watch the network and nothing else. I'm not. I mean, as far as wrestling televised programming, I just watch it and sit and watch it forever because it's so much good stuff on it. I hate to keep just, you know, promoting something that doesn't give us a commercial, but man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, so another thing that will be on the network at some point, obviously, is we're heading down the road to WrestleMania. We go from one Hall of Famer to a whole nother group starting this year. Word comes out that DX is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year as a group. Mm-hmm. But of course, as much light is on the whole DX group going in, the spotlight hits the fact that means they acknowledge that Chyna's going in as part of the group.
Yes.
I'll let you share.
I think it's a great opening step. Chyna did stuff nobody else had ever done before. Chyna was groundbreaking. Anything she did outside the ring, I think that was her business, and I don't think men should be treated differently from women when they do. They do things that are not flattering for the WWE. Everybody should be treated the same way. Chyna's finally getting her just desserts. There's a lot of people who've had substance abuse issues. There's a lot of people who've been filmed having sex that are either in the Hall of Fame or not. So I want to see what's going on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, her stuff, it's not just the DX days that everybody really tries to get into. But, man, her stuff with Eddie, the whole, Eddie, Mamacita, even Mark Henry. Remember she had the angle there with Mark Henry, winning the Intercontinental title as a woman. She truly was trend-setting. And I know everybody likes to use buzzwords, and she truly did revolutionize women's wrestling because she crossed over she was taking on men. She was winning. And the crazy part of it all, it was believable.
Yes. She did a good job. She was able to do what they needed her to do. She was able to be an attraction. And when they needed an attraction, she was able to be a wrestler. She kind of got a short end when the whole thing came up with Triple H and Stephanie, and I've listened to the stories before, and I'm sorry to hear the way that went down. And also, I'm sorry she had a tragic life, and I'm hoping this will help kind of clear up some of her name and clear up her the way people see her. So, Hall of Famer now. DX in there. That puts X-Pac in there too. Puts the New Age Outlaws in, one of my all-time favorite tag teams.
The irony is that, the New Age Outlaws are going in. Billy Gunn, who is a All Elite Wrestling producer.
Mm-hmm. He's going to have to leave, like what Flair did when Flair was working on TNA. And he was able to come do a WWE show. So that's awesome.
Well, I think that, there's plenty of time. Before they do a show, he'll be able to do this appearance, and it's just unique that they went ahead and he was featured in the videos on Raw. It was not bashful. Which is part of me kind of says, hey, that means are they? Everybody's got the whole they fear All Elite, which we're going to discuss in a minute, but maybe they just don't care.
I think they care. I don't think they care as much as everybody else thinks they do. I think you'd have to care from a smart business standpoint, but it's different. It's not like it's going to be the thing that puts them out of business. The WWE is always going to exist. They just have to have a respect for what they're going to do at All Elite. So,
and that's probably the case. I think they're going to play along nice with each other. But I just wanted to take a minute because, like I said, we're talking about DX going in, but obviously we think the highlight clearly is Chyna going in because New Age Outlaws at some point they'll go in single.
Yes.
Triple H obviously at some point will go in. Shawn's already in. He'll be in one of the other first two time. Flair's the other one. Shawn, Waltman, X-Pac. I'm sure at some point, don't you think they got to put him in?
This is the thing though. They can put him in here and not have to put him in later.
I still think he goes
kind of
in.
A workaround. I don't think Xbox ever will. I think maybe Road Dogg, to a lesser extent Billy Gunn. Triple H will be in there eventually, but I think Xbox is probably the one that won't be in there on his own.
Dude, you look at some of the names they have put in, Xbox going in.
Well, a lot of the way it's how it works out, and it's every year is different, and every year is not like who are the first ballot inductees like the Baseball Hall of Fame, or nobody votes on it. It's not a real Hall of Fame. It's not a real Hall of Fame. It doesn't even there's no physical Hall of Fame. It's just something that they do. And for Christ's sake, you know what it means? We're going to get another Dana Warrior speech. Oh God. That right there is and I love the program, don't get me wrong. The Hall of Fame program is one of my highlights of WrestleMania weekend. But getting a Dana Warrior speech, to me, is just an absolute, piss in the punch bowl. So,
you and my wife both are just not big fans of her speaking.
No.
Nothing against her personally. Just speaking.
No. Just listener speak. She's like a harpy to me.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. We just wanted to take a minute to kind of kudos for the WWE doing the right thing, at least getting Chyna in some form or fashion, and hopefully down the road they'll put her in here in the rightful place for being an individual woman. And speaking of women, let's go into topic number 2 that I wanted to ask you about: the tag belts, women tag belts.
Fascinated by this concept.
Sasha and Bayley. We talked about it was the obvious choice, right?
Oh yeah, and I knew they were going to do it because it's like you got to put your first belts on somebody that's first belt kind of presentation material. I love the Sasha and Bayley. I love that they're going to work as a tag team, but it's going to expose a lot of new talent, women's talent that tag teams are different. There are people who are better tag team wrestlers. Look at Bobby Eaton. I mean, Bobby Eaton had an okay singles career, but as a tag team wrestler, he was just absolutely magic. So you're going to see that. You're going to see women excel at something that has not been a typical women's job, except for when they've been shoving them in these big matches. And now they can put on more, get more people on a show. Because, these people are on salary anyway. So you can get more of them on a show and actually make it a lit title match. I like what they're doing. I like how they're going to defend it on all 3 shows, which to me is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Tag team wrestling is one of my favorite styles. I've always loved it. So I think it's going to be good. There's lots of grief about the tag team divisions, but I like that, like you said, that they're going to go to all 3 brands. By the way, I think all the belts should go that way, which we'll talk about in a second. But I 100% agree with you on that too, except for, like you said, the Intercontinental and U.S.
Yeah, make those the big belts. The Intercontinental's the big Raw belt. Mm-hmm. U.S. title's the big Smackdown belt.
And the person that holds it is in the title picture for the big belt.
Exactly. And then you can have the top, your women's champion, your WWE champion, and your tag team champions, and your women's tag team champions go to all 3 brands. They deliver. And I don't necessarily disagree leaving NXT with their own belts because they still are trying to bill it as the developmental brand, which it's clearly at this point not, but it's clearly the 3rd brand at this point. But it's okay. But going back and forth, defending on both shows, I wish that's kind of what they did. Because also to me, it creates an opportunity. There are women who are not in the women's title picture on all brands. Mm-hmm. What is who's the pirate? The girl pirate. What's her name?
Kairi Sane.
And then her friend is down there with her, the other Japanese star.
I know you're talking about. I can't.
But anyway, there was a joke about somebody said, "Oh, you're going to defend on all the brands." I mean, that's what I'm saying. If those 2 aren't in the NXT women's thing, picture, the title picture, put them in a tag team and have them, wrestle some women's matches and call out Sasha and Bayley. And then guess what? It gets interesting. You've got something for them to do.
Yeah, and it also brings more eyes to NXT. And if you've got a main roster belt being defended on the NXT, it will make more people say, well, maybe I need to get the network and watch NXT.
How about this concept? You want to blow your mind?
Go ahead.
We always complain about how crowded the pay-per-views are already, where they're literally jamming this. Yeah. How about now, people are going to blaspheme this, but I think it's a great concept. Let's say those 2 stars earn a title shot. Sasha and Bayley defend the women's titles at TakeOver instead of at the Rumble, because there's not enough room on the Rumble.
No, I agree 100%.
So they defend it against the NXT challengers on TakeOver. Because guess what? The next month when you don't have a TakeOver, then you'll defend on that pay-per-view against the women that's on Raw or SmackDown that deserve it.
Yeah, I agree. I like that idea. That's a good, solid idea, and it makes the pay-per-view seem less scheduled.
Well, it's
okay. We have to have a title defense of this belt here,
and guess what it does? Sasha and Bayley are going to be on TakeOver,
and Sasha and Bayley are great wrestlers, and I mean they need more exposure. But they don't need to be 18, 19-person matches like they do sometimes.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you're talking about, jamming them on a card, on a Rumble card, going hey, girls, you get to go out there and have a 5-minute, tag team title match. No, send them over to TakeOver where they can take on, hey, what about the 2 other horsewomen, the MMA horsewomen? Put them in a tag team, and guess what? They don't get exposed as much because there's 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They get to share the time in the ring. They get to have a match. They get to work with two, by the way. It's a great way to introduce that whole horsewomen angle.
Yeah.
But by the way, tidbit of information, I did not know this, and I guess I knew it, I just never thought about it. The 4 horsewomen of the WWE have now all been the first. Becky was the first SmackDown champion, women's champion. Charlotte was the first Raw champion, and Sasha and Bayley were the first tag team champions.
Fair enough. I like that, man. That's awesome.
So, anywho.
Now they just get them all on the same page again.
Yeah. If you can get everybody to agree to work together. But I think there's so much potential there, and it goes back to if the Universal title wasn't there, it was just the WWE title, there was only one women's champion, they could all fight and jockey for position, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's just me, and that's just kind of where I stand on title pictures. I think there's too many belts. And I even think, like I said, there's not enough qualified men tag teams to have a division on both brands.
I think you would be. I think you're right. I think it would be better served to have the belt tour. So.
Yeah. So, anywho, but it's because like what we're ending up with now is you end up with all of if there's people deserving titles, there's too many belts. I mean, put them on less. Which brings me to my topic I wanted to address with you, Kofi Kingston.
I love Kofi Kingston.
So do I.
Always pleasant to see what he does at the Rumble. Always a surprise. He's exhilarating to watch. Part of one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Love Kofi Kingston.
And here's the funny part: I get put in this position all the time. You've heard me once. You've heard me 100 times say. I always feel like a devil's advocate argument because Kofi's been awesome for a decade. I mean, it's over a decade, but for a decade he's been awesome. Nothing but love and respect for Kofi. But my question to you is, where the hell did all this Kofi deserves better, Kofi deserves to be champion love come from?
It doesn't matter who you put the belt on. Somebody's going to be like, oh, we need to put it on somebody else. Or we need to manufacture. Like, this is manufactured to me when they do this with guys. These guys become what it deserves to be champions. Like, it's internet buzz. And that's really not a great way to do business.
Well, I mean, he had that gauntlet match a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown.
Yeah.
It was really good. I mean, nobody's knocking it. But then all of a sudden, like the next day on Twitter and on Facebook, we're all told that Kofi deserves to be the champion. He's been, but I'm like, dude, I'm talking like, I was having a conversation and I wasn't 6 months. I'm like, dude, I was talking 6 weeks ago, nobody was having this conversation.
Yeah.
Where the hell did it come from?
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand how it goes so viral so quickly.
One person did. I mean, I said to somebody I said, hey, did Meltzer say that he deserved it?
God.
Did the minions jump on board and start saying like, yes, Kofi deserves to be champion. Kofi should be champion. I hated to say this, but I was like, he's the flavor of the month. To be the deserving guy. I mean, it was Finn Balor, it's Samoa Joe, it's this guy. There's always somebody who seems to be the he deserves it guy. Who determines that? I mean, who decides that?
I don't know, and it's. I thought the Booker did.
Well, that's the last time I looked. That's what I thought too. I mean, but it's the whole constant. This guy deserves. I mean, first of all, I like to point out to people there are not enough titles, and I just complain there are too many titles. There's not enough titles for everybody who deserves it to have a title.
It'll be a participation trophy.
That's what we have now.
Yeah. Folks, it's wrestling. It's not real. Nobody deserves a title. Okay? Because nobody fights. They're not ranked. It's not like NASCAR, or it's not like the NFL where you win games or you show a lot of grit and determination. It's a fake sport. Let's just be honest. So you don't deserve the belt. The belt's put on somebody they can make the most money with.
You know what wrestlers deserve?
What's that?
To be compensated at the level they have earned.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The belts are immaterial. They're just trophies. They're placeholders right now. Now,
I get the fact that because I've had wrestlers tell me what is good about the belts is that it does validate that they believe you're the top guy in the company. Yeah. Now, here's what I'm going to say to that. Kofi's not the top guy in the company.
No. Kofi never will be a top guy in the company.
He's a great U.S. champion. We've had this conversation. U.S. champion, Intercontinental champion, tag champion, call it for whatever you want. I just don't think Kofi is a... Now, here's the funny part. Big E, I can see as a top draw at some point.
Yeah, I do too.
He needs to be... I know it sounds silly. He needs to be separated out of the New Day as a tag team and and be a little more serious, and I think he could be that guy. But just Kofi, I don't buy.
Kofi always seems like kind of the odd man out in the New Day. He's charismatic, but he's not Xavier Woods charismatic, or Big E, or he's just. I mean, Big E's big. Let's just put it the other way. He's a big guy. He looks like an ass whipper. He looks like a guy you could put a championship belt on. And I still look at wrestling like I did 20 years ago.
Because you're old.
I don't want to see small guys. I don't want to see little guys. I don't want to see just not believable stuff.
Anyway, the guy who should be the champion is the guy who's putting butts in the seats.
Butts in the seats.
Getting people to buy tickets. Which leads me to Forbes' article. Forbes magazine wrote an article. That wigs you out constantly when you hear
every
that.
Time I know it's a publicly traded company as a stock, but when you tell me Forbes is writing about the WWE, I'm like, Forbes?
Yeah.
Really? God, we've come a long way, baby.
Long way. The article this time was pretty unique in that it said Daniel Bryan shouldn't lose the WWE title anytime soon. Mm-hmm. And the sad part is, we both agreed with that, I believe.
Yes. It made perfect sense. He's somebody that they're building as a marketable personality. And it's good for the company to have a stability like that. And it's working. And the ratings, the ratings aren't going down.
The ratings are the same. That was kind of part of their article. Was the ratings are the same now as they were with AJ as champion, which is what he deserved to be champion, which, okay. I mean, he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, so I could see that. I never argue. That's the funny part is I don't really necessarily argue X guy doesn't deserve to be the champion. I'm just going like what makes him deserving of to be the champion.
Yeah.
But with what their whole point of it was, they're going to SmackDown. SmackDown's going to Fox.
Mm-hmm.
If the ratings aren't going to be hurt or helped by Daniel Bryan being the champion, just keep the belt on him, build that character, keep having him connect. So by the time you get to SmackDown, hopefully you've established a top heel character, which is what he's going for.
Yeah,
that the fans are invested in hating.
Yes, and he's doing a great job of that. I'm telling you, his character works awesome.
My wife had not seen him since she doesn't watch often. We preface. She watched the other night when we were flipping through, and she looked and she goes, "What happened to him?" And I said, "Oh, this is the character." And she watched and listened, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I can see why people don't like him."
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not because she agreed with the concept, but she was like, "I agree. I can see why people, especially wrestling fans, would not like this character."
Oh yeah, he's the electric car. I mean,
yeah,
he's in a world of pickup trucks. It's just he's different. He stands out, and they work. I mean, like you said, he's that kind of guy in real life, so it's easier for him to do this stuff.
Well, nobody wants to be told what they're doing is wrong, even if it's wrong.
Exactly.
We're a little selfish that way, right? But anyway, so like I said, it's all, I think, like I said, the Forbes magazine article said, just build the characters, build them, and get there, because once you get there, they need to have stories built in, ready to roll, so business is good, and they get the exposure, fans are connecting, and all that good stuff.
Well, you're going to have people follow you there. Okay? It's going on to television on a different channel. You're going to have something that people will want to follow from Tuesday night to Friday night on a different network. It's solid. I mean, it's good thinking.
Yeah,
I like it when people put practical business sense into wrestling decisions.
Think of it like a business, not a sport, right?
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I listen to my favorite podcasts. I listen to outside of ours are Jim Cornette and Ron Fuller, because I like to listen when they talk about how they built territories and how they work things out. And the wrestling decisions they made, like business wrestling decisions, that kind of stuff fascinates me. To hear somebody who's done it and done it well and why they make those decisions, it's more interesting to me than anything else.
Well, and another one you can do that is the one we're working on currently. We've already aired the intro, the Gary Lamb, the wrestling business, as I throw up my air quotes. It's going to be back soon. We've already decided what topic 2 is going to be. It'll be surprise. I'm not going to tell everybody yet when it comes out. But Gary and I are going to get together, and we think we're going to have a special guest. Again, not going to spoil it. But make sure that you want to follow us on all of our social media at Tapped Out Pod. So we'll kind of announce when that's coming, what the topics will be. If you have any questions about it, you can send them in. And to follow us, basically, guys, we tell you all the time, it's at Tapped Out Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. Also, you can email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. So questions, if you have some when we release those topics, what they're going to be. And then, of course, we always suggest you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. That way you're going to get it early because we're going to release it always early there. You'll see the video version there as well. And then, of course, it'll come out on the main feed later. And by the way, another major reasons why you want to support us and follow us on patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Right now, if you've been a fan, the feedback has been awesome for your interview with Mike Perry.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that. I mean, that's why I can believe some of the feedback because I really enjoyed doing it. Mike's a fascinating human being.
Yeah, I can't put him over enough. It's awesome to listen to.
Yeah, and its voice is like, this is the only time in my experience putting together podcasts where I've had to turn my audio up over the guy that was calling in because he was that clear and that well-spoken and loud, and it was great to listen to. It's a very pleasant listen, and it's very intelligent. It's very insightful.
Yeah.
And do all kind of different things. So
absolutely.
It's a good people piece, too.
Part 2 is releasing on Monday the 25th, but it is available, obviously, now on our Patreon. And believe it or not, Brian Pillman Jr., which is releasing on March the 4th, is already loaded up. You can give that a whirl as well. So check those out on patreon.com/tappedoutpod, amongst other things. But let's get back to the topic at hand. I did want to ask you, I know there was a lot of stink this week about the Raw crowd. A little quiet. The Cajun Dome wasn't rocking. But the funny thing was there was lots of things going on, but the main pushback that some people were getting was during the NXT debuts on Raw, and they were on SmackDown as well. We saw Ricochet, Ciampa, Gargano, and Aleister Black all debut, and the crowd just kind of wasn't.
Well, they didn't get a promo suite like all the other NXT people did when they came up last round. Like they had all the videos for weeks and weeks and weeks running, and these guys were just shoved out there. And it's a bubble thing, like you say. Most people didn't know who they were. They're not big guys. It's not like a guy the size of Khali ran out of the back. They're just average size guys, smaller guys. They ran out. They did matches and stuff, and there was no build to them.
Like literally, were like, here they are, ladies and gentlemen, and
here's some guys.
Yeah, but that was my whole thing. As I tweeted it out, I was like, contrary to popular belief, everybody that watches Raw, A, doesn't own the network, or B, watch NXT on top of, because what 1.5 million people, it was 1.57 million, whatever it was, have the network. I mean, but think about it. We have friends like Cindy who they have the network but don't do anything but watch the pay-per-views, really.
Yeah. Well, you don't really need to watch Raw and SmackDown to keep up.
Well, that's not even there. That's what I'm saying. Your Raw and your SmackDown's not even there. So if you're not watching documentaries or old school wrestling, like I know that's your big thing, is watching old school wrestling and the documentaries and stuff like that, and obviously the pay-per-views. I mean, that's documentaries and pay-per-views. That's kind of what I do for the most part. Yeah. I mean, so not everybody watches NXT, even though it's a great product. When I do watch it, I'm absolutely thrilled.
So many wrestling shows I got to keep up with. I didn't watch Raw or SmackDown. I don't have a problem with that. When I feel like I've got too much wrestling to watch and I don't watch wrestling, it doesn't bother me emotionally.
Yeah.
I always make sure I'm able to talk about what's happening, and I study up on things before we do the show, but I don't feel I have to watch every moment of wrestling.
And you don't have to watch it live for sure.
No, I don't have to watch it live. I DVR everything. I DVR WOW, New Japan, Ring of Honor. No, I don't do Lucha because it's not running. Raw and SmackDown.
Okay.
So, is Superstar still on?
No. I mean, it is somewhere, I'm sure, but okay. But yeah, man. I mean, I know there was a big knock on it, but like you said, I mean earlier, it's just people just don't know who they are, and people just think that everybody knows who everybody is in wrestling, and that's all. I mean, I don't want to come back to. We'll discuss that in a minute, but that's part of my issue with AEW.
Yeah.
That people believe one thing, but I'm like, not everybody knows who everybody is. And of course, well, speaking of AEW, everybody's asking for their release, right, to go to AEW now is kind of the big story that everybody's wanting you to believe, right?
And it's not really been a lot of release. There's not been releases. Like the Revival asked for their release, and then they put the belts on them. So they're like, release the hostages, or the hostages need release. Or you're going to hold Vince McMahon hostage. No. When Canales and Bennett, did they reportedly ask, and then they're like, hell no, and they're like, oh, we never asked. The Revival asked, the Revival stayed and got the belts. Ty Dillinger, a guy who I haven't seen, he wasn't even 10 in the Royal this year, was he?
Nope.
Okay, so not a player. They messed up on him. They missed out. He was a little bit cold. I think he was a cold drop from NXT where they should have let him have a little bit more workup before they brought him in. Huh?
You say they dropped the ball. Did they? Or did he just not connect?
Yeah, he didn't connect. And
I mean, I know everybody's 10. I get it. But overall.
No, it's a gimmick thing. You know, it's like getting up for somebody's entrance at an indie show. And there's a tag team I think are great. But everybody in the fan base at the shows wants to do their entrance. And that's the thing with Ty Dillinger. But these guys connect, and Ty didn't connect. And outside of that, all he had was an entrance. And if you don't win, people don't remember your entrance.
Well, he had his 10 when he would do that to the competitor. Remember, he would do that 10 thing to them too.
He just didn't. I mean, he didn't connect. And so, okay, ask for your release, but don't think you're going. Everybody can't up your stock. Like, say, if you're not a contender, but then you ask for your release, they're going to make you a contender or put a belt on you because you asked for a release. They want to make you happy. They're not going to want to make everybody happy. Apparently, they saw something in the Revival that they wanted to do long term, and it was worthwhile to put a belt on them to keep them from leaving. I don't know why a belt would keep somebody from leaving, but
their claim was it was the focus of the tag team division. It wasn't about them. They wanted to focus on the whole tag team division.
Vince doesn't like tag teams. You knew that getting into it, guys. Everybody knows that. AEW doesn't have they got the Bucks and they got the Lucha Bros, or is that what they call it, Lucha Bros? They don't really
and they have the best friends now too. They have Taylor and Beretta or whatever.
They got 3 tag teams right now. Like they're going to have a tag team division starting out? No.
Well, you're easier to be on top if there's only that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen? The Bucks are going to put another tag team on top.
Yeah, that's kind of...
I'm kidding. They actually probably will. It makes more sense for them to put somebody else on top. I know that sounds...
Well, I think they in that landscape they're on, it might make more sense to have them chasing a heel tag team.
I just think you're better off putting the Lucha Bros on top and having them work matches.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal matches.
Because you make the Lucha Brothers happy, right? And then you're going to be there anyway. So what do you deserves
it. Put a belt on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Dillinger is not happy, I'm sure Vince will release him and he'll get to go. But not everybody's going to AEW. There's only so much room on the boat.
Well, and recently in the interview, even Chris Jericho kind of said that he felt like the roster they have right now, that's kind of what they're going to run with in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they do. I mean, he's the top guy. Let's clearly establish he's the top guy. Kenny is probably, and Cody are probably 1B. As much as that's not a knock on them, by the way. How much I believe in Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho would be a 1A, in my opinion, in WWE.
He is, and whatever they put him in it. The thing about Jericho is you can plug him in anywhere on the roster, in any kind of storyline, and he elevates it.
Oh, I meant to ask you this. I read this the other day, and I never actually had this conversation with him. I can't not believe it until I just thought of this. Somebody on Twitter made a comment about him having the audacity to ask for a Lesnar money, but he said it like he deserved to be paid at that. Like he was that kind of a star. Yeah. Jericho responded and was kind of like, "Well, yeah, I do." And I was sitting there kind of going, "Well, yeah, he is."
He draws people to stuff. The best storyline they've had in forever was the Best Friends thing he did with Kevin Owens. That was amazing. So, and Kevin Owens to me is like pulling a turd. You know, Jericho elevated him till he made him palatable, and putting him with Sami Zayn, it doesn't make him as palatable. So,
and so Jericho made the comment too that he also thinks that Vince letting him go might be the move that comes back to bite him in the ass, which I do agree with, because his comment was, WWE fans, if he signs Chris Jericho, let's, and this, completely we were off topic at this point, by the way, for the format's shot at this point, because I really wanted to ask you about this. Chris Jericho, if he doesn't sign and he goes back to the WWE, the biggest connection that anybody over in All Elite can do is Cody.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Is Cody going to, now hear me out, because we all, again, love Cody. Phenomenal wrestler. Got sucked into the moment of him thinking he was going to win that NWA title. He's going to be the champion for the NWA for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we know what happens. He goes on, he wins, but he doesn't. He's not a long-term champion. Whatever. However, the casual fan that we always talk about maybe remembers, because they know Stardust, then they remember Cody some. Yeah. But Jericho will draw a crowd, because they'll go like, oh my God, Chris Jericho's over there.
Draws wrestling fans.
He will draw eyes to All Elite. And that's kind of what, when he said that might bite him in the butt, letting him go over there, it is true.
He's a standard bearer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be on top wherever he goes. He's been on top wherever he goes forever. He's almost immortal as far as he's done this stuff. Remember, we were 98, 97, 98 when he was coming out in WCW. 2000, he was in the WWE. That's 2000. It's 2019.
I mean, he's had a great, phenomenal run. I always tell people, if Jericho's not on your Mount Rushmore, he's like number 5 knocking at the edge.
I think he actually has to be on the Mount Rushmore because he's been able to do what he does in so many different places.
It depends on what you qualify your Mount Rushmore as.
He was able to walk into Japan dry and be a huge pop over there too. So I think he's.
Yeah. But speaking of Japan, by the way, and All Elite Wrestling, I did want to ask you. So the shocker of the world, right, is that Kota Ibushi finally comes out and announces to the world why he chose to not sign. He was offered a deal by All Elite, and he chose not to go, which is kind of surprising, right?
Well,
why would anybody not sign a contract offered to them by All Elite? I just don't understand.
He's from Japan. He lives in Japan. Now, the Bucks were living over there and back over here, too. I can see why they wouldn't want to have to go to Japan all the time. But this is like, I live in Japan. I work in Japan. I don't need to come outside America. I mean, Ibushi probably could have been a WWE talent after that finish he had in the Cruiserweight Classic. I don't see him doing it. It doesn't make any sense. Stay in your home territory. You're making plenty of money there because you're big as hell in Japan.
Well, he basically says that he's finishing his career in New Japan. It's the last time he has to make this type of decision. Yes, they did want him to move here to be a full-time wrestler here in the States, which he had zero interest in apparently. But also, him and Kenny obviously had that, the friendship. And he said Kenny wanted to come over here and change the wrestling world. He wanted to change the business. But his approach was, he felt that was in New Japan, not in All Elite. He feels like he can make that change. And it's just philosophical differences, right?
Yeah, and everybody has the right to have those.
And that's the path he's chosen. And guess what, guys? It is okay.
I'd have done the same thing. I'd have done the exact same thing.
If I was in his shoes, I wouldn't want to move, to the States and start all over again.
Uproot whatever you've got, family-wise, friend-wise.
I wouldn't want to uproot me and for that.
Yeah. I mean, hell, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get in this house because I'll never be able to move this shit out of my basement.
I just mean from the sake of him doing it. Hey, look, I've got a daughter who packed up and moved to Argentina, so I get the desire to do it. But I just meant from the sake of, and it's all for a risk.
Yes.
This may work.
And you've got a sure thing there.
Absolutely. He's a top guy over there. He'll probably be an IWGP champion again. Yeah. Whatever. So kudos to him. Good luck to him. I think he made the right decision. And that's not a knock on All Elite. Honestly, I think if he went to them, I could have agreed that maybe that was a good move for him because he was wanting to try something new.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Same thing we talk about with all the other wrestlers. They're all making business decisions. They're all going to make it on their personal.
It's your family life. It's your friends. It's where you're at. And if you can stay in a territory and homestead, stay. I don't see why you'd want to go out and have to roll all over the world to do stuff.
Maybe it's an easier way to make money, right?
Yeah.
So, speaking of, before we get out of here, I do want to ask you that, speaking of easy ways to make money, talking about worlds colliding, because we all know, obviously, if you look right over my shoulders, you see comic books hanging on my wall. Obviously, majority of what you see back there is DC, not Marvel, but Chris Hemsworth, man, Thor himself,
yes,
has been signed on and cast to play Hulk Hogan in a Netflix biopic.
Oh, it's a Netflix biopic?
Yeah.
Well, see, that doesn't really mean anything because they put so much money into those.
Yeah.
And also, I like them better because I don't have to go to the movie theater. I mean, I got decent sound here at the house and the screens are fine. So if I don't have to go to the movie theater to watch something, I'm probably going to watch it. You know, and if they can present Hogan, the good parts of Hogan before he became so unsavory, I think it'll be a huge success. Well,
it's supposed to be. It's his rise in wrestling, the rise of Hulkamania, the early years of, Hogan, who, by the way, will be an executive producer and be involved in this one. So
he'll look good.
We'll see how embellished things may be.
No vitamins, no thermos, no racial slurs.
No, should all be. This is all because he did address. There won't be any talk about the Gawker lawsuit, none of the sex tape, none of that. The divorce, none of that's going to be included. It's all going to be the early years, about rising to become Hulkamania. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And how about? Todd Phillips and Bradley Cooper directing this thing. So actually got some star power on it.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of shocked me a little bit. I don't know why that shocked me and threw me at all.
Throwing money at stuff. I hate that they canceled my Marvel shows, which are awesome, but I know they'll come back somewhere else. And I know Disney's getting its own streaming service, and
Hulu's expressed interest, I think, in them as well.
Well, that's a Disney property now,
right?
So,
but hey, if you want to throw money around and you want to support us, they can always go to patreon.com/tappedoutpod because we're trying to throw out content. Hey, the more Patreons we get, the more we're going to throw out more content, interviews, video. I've got some really cool ideas on some shows I want to run by you. Obviously, the wrestling business with Gary Lamb, the docuseries going on, and Myron just killing it with these interviews, by the way.
I'm having fun. I love this stuff. I want to do this stuff. This is what I would like to do with my life full time, and hopefully just make a living doing this. I enjoy interacting with new people who love wrestling too. So
yeah, and Lewis knocking it out, man, getting some interviews, killing it up there as well.
Killing it up north.
So, and remember on Patreon, at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, we're always putting those interviews out early. I'm trying to put them up there 2 weeks, 1 week to 2 weeks early. So make it worth your while. If you don't believe us, ask our, all the patrons that we have. I know our superstar patrons that we have are, MCF. We have, Hoop, Nathan Littman. We have Heath. Lots of those guys are on there. We appreciate all of them, obviously, but Hoop's always putting stuff out there for us, and we appreciate that. So definitely check us out. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. This past week, before we really take out of here, I wanted to say congrats to Southern Fried, dude. They're totally on fire. No pun intended. 550 plus. I think it was 551, 558.
It's insane the amount of people coming out to see wrestling in Monroe. And that's not a major population center. It's awesome. Those crowds are coming from all over to go to Monroe. Love what they're doing. They've got such a good product. It's a well thought out product that people care about, and they will continue to draw and new fans every week. Every week I see tons of people I've never seen before.
Oh yeah.
So that's the best thing you can see is having new fans and new money because your regular crowd's loyal to them. Awesome job, guys.
Yeah, David Manders, is putting the money in the product. He's bringing in some talents that he's the right names, the right times. Todd Sexton booking it like nobody. He's on fire. We had a chance to. I forgot you had to, but I talked to him after the show. Basically, told him 5-star matches on indie shows are nice, but the storytelling that they do, that is their bread and butter, and no one right now does it better than them. Everything just seamlessly rolls from one show to the next show to the next show to the next show. And stories have been going on for, 6-9 months to a year.
I love what they're doing with Damian Bennett right now, too. I mean, that guy's killing it. Love that guy.
Much love. Yeah, if you really want to, just because a lot of people don't know what's going on over at Southern Fried, I did write an article for Georgia Wrestling History, a little review of the show, a little bit something different. I don't really write just results. I kind of tried it a little bit different. So check it out. I know Drew Blood, the wrestler, over there at Southern Fried wrote one as well. His is a little bit of a different twist. It's a little more of a comical twist, obviously. But check out, man, cause we're rolling into, not this weekend, but the following weekend. It'll be a double header, which we get from time to time with Southern Fried and Southern Honor.
Love this. It's going to be a tiring weekend, man, but I am so juiced about it.
I mean, two of the hottest, and I said something to somebody the other day. At this point, drawing the crowds that they've drawn, they are no longer just two of the hottest indies in, Georgia. Yeah. I think they're already competing out to the southeast, that they're really drawing.
To the point where Meltzer is going to be wanting to talk about. And I'm not being facetious here. I mean, they're getting up to the point where Meltzer and some of the big wrestling journalists, besides us, will start talking about what they're doing in Southern Honor and Southern Fried.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see Alan Angels and AC Mack at Southern Honor at the next show. I'm also really looking forward to the sleeper match. You shouldn't sleep on it, but you might. Joe Black and Austin Theory is going to be really, really good. Yeah. Gary, same thing. Phenomenal job up there. Him and Dylan are just killing it up there in Canton. But definitely those, give them a follow on Facebook for crying out loud, because you can watch the card. Yeah. They put the show up on Facebook so you can catch up before the next show. They do a top 10 moments, all that kind of stuff, man. But anyway, enough love to those guys. Definitely want to check those both out if you're in the Georgia area at all. If you're not, I mean, in Alabama and Tennessee, you can actually get to Canton to Southern Honor pretty quick. Yeah. Check those guys out. But man, I don't have anything else on my side. You got anything that I'm missing, or?
No, man, I think we covered everything. And the stuff that we didn't cover is, in my opinion, not worth talking about.
I agree with you there. So fans that, you can sit here and look if you're watching the video, which is on Facebook, by the way. So people always ask me, why should I follow you on social media? Well, that's because on Facebook we have the video. It's up. Twitter, because we announce stuff all the time on Twitter and Facebook. And Instagram from time to time. Nick gets really, really bored and throws pictures up on Instagram.
I don't understand Instagram. I'm too old.
I get it vaguely, but I try to keep the pictures to keep everybody entertained.
Where are the words? I need words.
I do throw pictures up from time to time from pay-per-views and stuff like that and stuff, which is weird. It's just something that I do. But you definitely, obviously, Tapped Out Pod on every form of social media. TappedOutPod.com is the website. TappedOutPod@gmail.com is our email. So you can shoot us any messages. Of course, you can do that on social media, which is what I prefer versus the email. And then, of course, we always tell you, man, Patreon.com/TappedOutPod. That's the place to find everything and anything that involves us. It'll always be there. But Myron, I guess if I've got nothing and you've got nothing, man, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.